Welcome back to the dopest show you won't get sick of. I'm Spencer, and this is Sasha. I spent most of my 20s in federal prison, but I've been off heroin since April 9, 2010. I've got a whole lot of stories about the stupid stuff I did to get put in prison. I've also got a whole lot of stories about the crazy stuff that happened while I was in prison. God forbid you end up in prison. You want to make some of the same mistakes I made. So, Flamin Raymond. The first introduction that I heard about Flamin Raymond, I believe it was like my first day getting up going to breakfast. This dude who I became friends with my first day there, Fox, he was in there for an oxy case, and a lot of the people on my side of the building were like middle-aged dudes. He was probably like 28 to 30, and I was like 22 at the time, something like that. But anyway, we got along. We younger, talk the same, that type of deal. Like, you hang out with people you're like. So he woke me up and he's like, "Hey, come on, man, it's time to go to breakfast." So I get up, hadn't even finished wiping the stuff out of my eyes. And I've told this before, it's a funny recap. So I'm drinking my milk sitting at a table, and this guy says, "Yeah, I like to F young boys in the A, so what?" And I'm not going to say the words, but F and A, you can figure out what he said. And I remember I spit my milk back in the car, and I said, "What did he just say?" And he said, "Oh, that's Flamin Raymond." I said, "Flamin Raymond? Like, you talking about ramen? Like ramen noodle?" "No, Flaming Raymond. That's a homosexual shot caller." I said, "Oh, that explains everything. Where am I at?" I mean, imagine, this is your first day in prison, okay? I self-surrendered. I didn't go through process, and they allowed me 5 months to self-surrender so I could complete drug court for my state charges. Just yesterday, I was at home, at my house. Then the next day, I'm eating breakfast, and a table over, there's Flamin Raymond talking about his preferences. I'm like, oh my Lord. So there's a whole other story about that if you go down on the list. That's the first one. This is another story about another person, about a whole other thing that he got a hold of. So I went to the medium security after spending 3 months in the hole after I got in trouble. Then I went back to the low security after spending 2 years at the medium and managing to stay out of trouble. So when I get back to the low security, you go through orientation. What orientation is, when you first get back to the low security, or when you first go to the low security, a lot of the time they put you in a building called Richmond Hall. Huge building, okay? It's got 3 floors, and it's gigantic, like 350 people. It's not an open pod. Floors and hallways, and it's like an old haunted, like, asylum looking thing. It was built in the 1930s. It's absolutely insane. Cockroaches everywhere. No air conditioning. When it gets hot in the summer, the walls actually beat up with water. People said the walls sweat. I thought it was an exaggeration. No, the walls actually, it looks like they're sweating. So at the medium security, it's a whole lot more people that are messing around behind the scenes. It's a whole lot. There's like a whole thing with that. At the low security, it's not as out and out. Like, there's a handful of people that are known, but there's a whole lot of people that got put out every week for something. I mean, people are getting put out, something, they'd either get caught or something like that. So he was the leader of this small little group of the people that were out and out. Of the punks, basically. No disrespect to anybody. Live your life how you want to live it. I'm just telling this story as it was. So I get back to the low security, going through orientation. You got to go through different places. You got to go to the dentist. You got to go to education. They got to make sure you have a GED. If you don't have a GED or high school diploma and you go to prison, you're going to get it. They make you get it. And you have to keep going to class for 20 years if it takes 20 years until you get that GED. So stay in school, kids. You're going to have to if you get in trouble and go to prison. They're going to make you. You don't have a say in that matter. So at one of these, orientations, there's this guy, okay? Probably about, 5'8", 5'9", about 230, overweight, looks like he played video games most of his life. Got 2 real big buck teeth that come out in front of the rest. And, we're just talking about stuff. You're stuck sitting there. You're stuck sitting. If you go to the dentist, you're stuck sitting in the waiting room for the whole hour, sometimes 2 hours. Same with any place that you go to when it's orientation. You get stuck. Hurry up and wait. You have to hurry up and get there. Then you have to sit there forever, one by one, while they take their merry old time. So I talked to this fella. He's in there for oxy distribution charge, which a good many people were in there, back in around the 2010, 2012, that was, when it started getting a little bit, they started cracking down a little bit on all that. But there were a lot of people in there for, like the Roxy 30s and stuff. And I believe that's what this dude, if I remember correctly, that's what he said. Now, certain people, like, you talk certain ways. Like, you hear how I'm talking, but, like, how some people, just because somebody's a dealer, just for people who don't know, dealers aren't just street hood ghetto people. There are people that strictly stay in these little rich communities, and so many people are doing it now. Gamers, jocks, everybody in high school, like everybody. It's just, there's not a particular type to addiction. So this guy, like, he's like the type of person, he seems like a gamer, does not seem tough. I mean, that's just the best thing that I can think of to say for him, talking about stuff, trying to describe this guy. He does not seem tough. He does not seem like he'd fight. He seems like if you try to fight, he's like, oh, like he'd be somebody, like if he was at somewhere more serious, he'd get pressed and, that type of situation. But anyway, so I talked to him, then end up going from Richmond Hall. Once a bed opens up in one of the 6 other buildings, you get sent to that building. So I got sent to Carolina Hall. It's a small unit. Roaches everywhere in these units too. It was built back in like the 1930s. It's miserable, and a lot of the old people don't make it from the heat in the summer. Their bodies just physically shut down, and that's a whole other set of stories there. But he got sent to Lee Hall. Lee Hall is a football field long, 3 floors, gigantic. Richmond Hall and Lee Hall are 2 buildings that are so big. They have 2 guards work in each unit. Carolina Hall, where I was at, it was just 1 guard. It was 140 people, smaller building. It was probably a quarter the size of Lee Hall. Okay, and like I said, it's not open. It's not a pod. Okay, it's like a regular building with separate floors, like with the stairwell. There are people that would stand up on the top stairwell, the 3rd floor of Richmond Hall, and wait to see if the cops coming up. Then they'd give the alert signal so then somebody could stop tattooing or whatever they're doing. Like, it's a lot easier. There's 0 cameras in any of these buildings too. That's a key factor. And Lee Hall had a reputation for being where a lot of freaky stuff happened, especially in the basement. One particular instance, I had an absolutely terrible, terrible counselor when I first got to the low security. When you get to the low security, when you get to the prison, it shouldn't take more than a week to get your family on the visitation list. Anybody that is on your pre-sentence investigation, pre-sentence report, that it says this is your mom, this is your dad. If you're married, that person goes on there too. They automatically go on your visiting list. That should have been done within a week. I got there in August. It was approaching November, and I still hadn't got my family put on because this lazy guy had not done it. And I'd gone to him like 3 times, and I learned that you can file paperwork against that, and I don't want to do that because that makes you a target by them. And I end up telling them my birthday was coming up. It was my 1st year in prison. I want to see my mom, you know what I mean? So I go up and I tell them, I said, listen, I'm going to go to Miss So-and-so. If you don't get this what do you think I'm doing, holding your visitation form? I said, oh, I'm going to have to go to Miss So-and-so. I mean, my birthday's, I'm not trying to cause a problem. He said, F Miss So-and-so, I run this prison. And he was a union rep. A lot of the staff were scared of him because he held a tremendous amount of power. He drove a used Maserati and acted like he was hot stuff, but he was making 6 figures or better a year. Because the way the unions are set up, basically the leaders of it, like the guards would be scared of the people that were higher up in the union, the guards union, whatever. And he did have some pull there, but this lady had more pull than him, and I went and told her, and she was a very professional lady, actually. And I went and told her, and apparently she got my visits on, but he wasn't happy about it. And I'm telling you this is all circling around to a point here. Trust me. I was in the toilet. Apparently, this counselor circled the building twice looking for me. Well, when I came out of the toilet, he says, there you are, you mother effer. What the F you think I'm doing? Holding your effing visitation forms? I said, Mr. Sons, I just want to see my mom. My birthday's in a couple weeks. I don't want any problems with you, man. I said, I just want to see my family. It's my birthday. I've been here since August. Don't in my family. He said, keep on effing with me. I'm going to send you to Lee Hall, where the are at. They be effing in there all night. I'm going to put you in a bed right next to the shower. All they do is effing in there all night. All you're going to hear is... And it reminded me of that Get Hard thing, with Kevin Hart. I mean, it was so similar to like his speech to Will Ferrell. But he actually did this. I have people that are out now that were there when it happened. They laughed at it. And it was really sucky because he would do this stuff to like talk crap to people and people would laugh at it and he'd get laughs and he liked getting laughs. And I got my revenge on him in the future. But that's just saying. He's a counselor. Even he knows what goes on in Lee Hall. Raymond is in Lee Hall. I don't know what it is. They just stack the people of a certain persuasion in this unit more than anywhere else. And where it's such a huge unit with so many halls and corridors and stuff, they get away with this. And see, they have this shower. They have shower in Richmond Hall, Lee Hall. Richmond Hall, they have a shower. And what was really cool there, too, okay, in the medium security, you had a flap that went knee to chest high. Okay, at the low security, you had full curtains. At Richmond Hall, they had this like 10 by 10, or probably 8 by 8 foot big swinging door with the old bars where it's an old military prison that opens up, and it's got 4 showers. Only one person goes in there at a time. You put the towel over it, it's known somebody's in there. There's multiple shower heads. No, we ain't doing that. Multiple people ain't going in there. That's a known fact. And it's the inmates that put cardboard all over it so you can't see through, so you can have privacy. I remember it was the first shower that I was able to take, because see, the showers at the medium security are in the corners of a triangular shaped pod. So you make eye contact with people that are doing it's awkward. And you have to press a button. It only lets out hot water for 30 seconds at a time. Well, when I got to Richmond Hall, it's got an actual lever that you can turn the water on and it stays on. You can turn it hot, you can turn it cold. I remember, man, that was the best shower, just being able to get a shower in peace. Man, it was, I know that sounds stupid and but being able to take a shower in peace where you aren't making eye contact, people making rounds around. But anyway, the Lee Hall shower, different building, in the basement of it. See, it's got this basement and it's just bunk. Like there's this much space in between each bunk, okay? If 2 people roll off and put their legs off the side of the same bunk, they're going to touch legs. That's how close it is. And this shower, it's a doorway, just a regular doorway. It's not like the big swinging door over at Richmond Hall. And it's this 15 by 15 foot shower. And apparently that's where the nasty stuff went on in that unit. See, you can't go unit to unit. So whatever unit you're in is the type of stuff you're going to have to deal with. So I was thankful I wasn't in Lee Hall, because apparently you hear and stuff and everything in there. Like it's, oh Lord. But that's where Raymond was at, and that's where most of his little clan was at. He was like the Pied Piper of them. He'd have a group of them and everything. In the other story I got about him, I have a story about him where he basically had somebody pay a debt to him by marrying him. Had flower girls and everything on the yard. Okay, it's a funny story. It's way down in him, back on the first bunch of my stories. But anyway, this guy ends up in Lee Hall, the guy who I ended up talking to, was in orientation. Like I said, you're stuck at place. I see this guy. I'm out there. I get back in the workout quick. There's a guy who I was friends with. Boone was his last name. People call him Big Midget. But anyway, I worked out with him, got right in with the workout group. It's hard to get in with the workout group if you want a bar. There's only 7 bars. And every hour, the yard opens up for 10 minutes, and that bar gets passed from group to group. So if you don't have a group to work out with, you're not going to be getting a bar. You're not going to be getting dumbbells until like right at 8:20 when people stop. There's some leftover stuff, and you can try to get something in real quick. But there's all kinds of 45-pound barbells, okay? Well, I'm working out with Boone, and I see Raymond with this guy. Now, Raymond's jacked. He's about 6 foot-ish. 220 pounds, big old white guy, okay? And he does not sound, there's nothing in his voice, and he's not that old. I mean, I wouldn't say he's about 30 or something like that. There's nothing about him that tells you this could be a predator. Most predators were older weirdos for the most part. This isn't old weird. I mean, he was a weirdo, but he wasn't old like that. And Raymond was in there, if I remember correctly, for messing with underage boys on the street. That's what he had a chomo charge. But anyway, he's got this boy, the guy the video game guy, and he's got him out there doing sit-ups and got him doing. It's not a good look. I know it's a good exercise that helps people, but it's not a workout to do in prison. There were a few people that did it, and they usually were punks. But there's a workout where, like, you put the 45-pound barbell in your lap and you thrust your hips up. It's supposed to be, it's supposed to be a good workout. No, it's not a good look for prison. That's not a workout you want to do in front of a bunch of a bunch of convicts, thrusting your hips in the air. It don't look right. He's got him doing that. He's trying to whip this little piggy into shape. He's getting ready to make this little piggy squeal like one, and I guess he's trying to get him in better shape so he look better for. I don't know. And it started out just like with the other stuff. Like you saw him working out. It was like they were just two people coexist, two friends working out at first. Now Raymond was leading the workout, no doubt, but as time went on, you saw the power dynamic change, okay? Like, before, and I was like just sitting there like, oh, Lord, he's getting ready to, he done found him one. He's done got him another one. You see them walking side by side at first. Just like my buddy Foss, like me and him, we'd be walking out, BSing as we're walking. But there was something you saw with Raymond when he got him a boy. Now, what he would do is he would have them basically be his caddy. There wasn't any of that lipstick dyeing the lips dyeing, none of that stuff like that. I mean, there's some stuff, the medium, where some people did some stuff like that, but in terms of him making somebody his punk, there wasn't any of that. He would make them like his caddy. So you'd see Raymond just strutting, walking up front, and you'd see this guy trailing behind him at like a couple feet back at a vertical angle, carrying like 3 or 4 gym bags full of all kinds of stuff. One of them would have just, there's some stuff that people use to link dumbbells together to lift. There's some stuff, and one of them would have a blanket. And then they'd be laid out on what they call Peter Beach. Petersburg was a very, very strange place. I'm telling you, it was an odd place. And at the medium security, it was more out and out with the people who were about it. And I think part of that was because it was an open pod, okay? See, if you're in an open pod, you can see everything that's going on. So if you got a punk and you got somebody that goes in his cell and they put up the bathroom sign, nasty stuff's going on. At the low security, there's so many halls, corridors, you can't see who's going where at what time. So there's a lot of stuff that probably that didn't get put. Everybody got put out that was doing something like that eventually, just about, okay? But you didn't see it as frequently, okay? You didn't see it as often because you never got locked down at the low security, ever. How it works is this. At like 9 o'clock, you got to stand in your room. They do count. You got to wait till count clears. Takes about 10, sometimes 20 minutes if an idiot's working. You'd guess counting people would be easy, but you'd be surprised how many times they have to do a recount. Up to 3 times sometimes, the same guards in the same building. And after that count's cleared, you can go back. So I had a crew that I hung out with. Late night, we'd stay in the TV room. Me, Khalifa, Jay, and then there was a guy from Richmond. I can't remember his name right off. But we'd stay up watching TV till about 1 or 2 a.m. I'm an insomniac, some of the medication I need for sleep, I couldn't get it in there. So I'd stay up watching TV till I was absolutely just drained, and then I'd fall asleep. And that was kind of when it brought my attention that there was more stuff going on than I knew was going on, because Khalifa says, Paul's on the prowl again. And I look out and I see this dude, probably about 40 years old, completely slick, shiny, white head, a little overweight, always wearing his khaki suit. See, I dressed like in there like I do, like you see me, like usually t-shirt, gym shorts. Some people wear a khaki suit all the time. Paul was on, and I'm like, what do you mean Paul's on the prowl? He said, he's on the prowl. He said, he'll just walk around this building, act looking like he's lost, waiting for somebody to approach him. He said, so-and-so got caught the other week with it, and people did get caught with Paul. Okay, and it was a funny thing. But, Paul, he didn't bother nobody, though. Paul stayed out of the way and everything else, but it was known, apparently, that was going on. So, since nobody ever got locked down, what would happen was, you heard that the freaks come out at night, I guess it was something like that. They'd wait till everybody else was asleep, and then they could roam the building when everybody else is asleep, and, sneak wherever they're going to sneak. Sometimes, there's one time, see, it's cubicle setup. So the cubicles are like 7-foot tall dividers, but there's no door on the cell. It's just an open doorway. And Paul had a cell in the corner on the top floor. And somebody who was just up late at night watching TV, doing laps, walking around, whatever, a guy called Lil Swole caught somebody with Paul one time and put him out there for it. They were just in the cell and stuff was happening. So yeah, a lot more stuff probably happened there than I knew, because at the medium you'd tell. I mean, and it's a whole different dynamic. But at the low, I got a feeling a whole lot more than I ever could have imagined was going on at that place. But anyway, Raymond got that guy. He became his caddy, and then he starts hanging out with the bunch. See, at first it's kind of like this. Whenever this was something I noticed, just spectating, Raymond would get he had a little group of the punks, the people that were out and out known about it, and there wasn't a whole lot of them. At the medium, there was literally 100 to 200. At the low, probably about 10 or 15, and he was the leader of that little group. But he would stay away from that group when he was finding him somebody new, and he would just hang with that person, act like he's guiding them, showing them, and you wouldn't guess any funny business was about it. And, I think he found people, and let me put it this way, too. A lot of the times whenever you talk about stuff like this, God forbid you end up in prison, a lot of these people it happened to, like this guy, basically, I think they watched too many, and Raymond counted on this, that they watched too many movies, too worried, and they get to thinking they need a protector. It's Petersburg low. You don't need a protector, okay? I mean, fights happen, but, nothing's going to happen to you. But he preys on that, and I don't know if if he just what his deal was, how he ended up, if he broke it down with the speech or what he did to him, but or maybe he wrestled him, maybe a wrestling, and he ends up doing something. I don't know. I don't want to know, but this guy who seemed just what I'm saying is, if you go in there and you're like, I'm not about it. I don't need any new friends. You don't want to be friends with anybody too quick. You know what I mean? So anything like that. See what everybody's about. If, God forbid, you end up in prison. You're watching me, so you're not going to. But let's just say something crazy happened and you did. Speaking up for yourself, there's no way in the world that dude, the gamer dude, if he had spoke up for himself, I don't believe in the world anything would have happened to him. I don't believe Raymond would have. I think he coerced people, manipulated people into that. That's my personal thoughts. That's what he was in there for. He was in there for doing that with people that were underage, So I think he did the same thing with them. And something else, too, to note, the people that he usually picked were people that looked young. They were young white guys. The first one I talked about, Joe. Joe was a skinny young white guy, and I talk about being approachable and stuff, and I mean, even if you are this way, you're going to have to tighten up a little bit if you end up in prison, but Joe's just like one of those guys. He's an incredibly nice guy. He's just like one of those guys like, hi guys, how you doing? I'm Joe. Nice to meet you. Just being that smiley and friendly with everything, people, you're going to have a target on your back, says you're soft and everything else. There's certain lines, even if you are something, even if you aren't tough, even if you aren't something, it's better just stay quiet till you figure things out, get your little groove, figure everything that's going on with everybody, never get into any debts. That was another thing he did. He was known to get people in debt to him. Raymond, that was like the storyline, and that's a classic storyline of a prison predator, getting people into debt to them, and then all this, and stuff like that, and then basically telling them this, that. But in most of these cases, now there's the story of Ghost I told, which Ghost got a dozen guys in probably 2 months, but they were all weak guys who would not fight him back. That's another important thing to note. But he got people. And then there was another incident I talked about that was just random and awful, that the guard was outside that I had to listen to that happening to. But in most of these cases, it was a form of coercion. It wasn't a form of forceful, I'm going to get you, little boy. It wasn't something like that. It was like you'd see them make a friend and give them some stuff. And, I went in there thinking, you don't take no gifts. When somebody puts a honey bun on your pillow, you better be ready to smack somebody. And that's the stupidest thing ever. If somebody puts a honey bun on your pillow, and you ate that honey bun, that's the old story. Somebody puts a honey bun on your pillow. If you eat that pillow, sometimes I get mixed up in my words. If you eat that honey bun, they'll be they think you'll be biting the pillow if you eat that honey bun. There's a good one. But the story was, they'll be like, well, you ate the honey bun, right? And they're like, no, I've got it. Here it is. And they'll look at the honey bun and they will have put like a little mark on the barcode. Well, this isn't the same one I got you. I want the one you gave me. If somebody who's just like, do with me as you may, sir, because you ate a honey bun off a pillow and you go for that, oh, Lord have mercy. Come on now. I mean, you kind of had that coming, or you might have, been like Mr. Garrison on that one South Park when they were looking for Towie. And he was in the shower, and a whole SWAT team came in, and they told him, hands on the wall now. He doesn't have any clothes on, puts his hands on the wall. He goes, oh, no, do with me as you may, you sick people. And then the SWAT team shoots the towel in the cartoon, and then they roll out. They leave, and he's like, hey, where y'all going? Like maybe somebody wanted something like coming. But when I first got there, I got approached by 4 guys. One of them was a great big old tall guy, about 6'8", 6'9". 4 white guys. The other looked like creepy old men. And they kept trying to give me like this, they had like a little box, like a little bit of food, some hygiene stuff, and they tried to give it to me, and I cussed them out. And I looked at them, and I said, I'll knock every one of you out. I said, start with you, big man. And wasn't anything about it. I was thinking, no, we ain't going to do this game. You can get out of my face right now. I told them, and they're like, no, you don't have to give us anything. I said, I know. I'm not going to, and you ain't going to give me nothing either. You can take your box and get on. The next day, I found out they were just a nice Christian group that tried to help out new people that got to the prison, and I just cussed out a Christian group. So that made it awkward. I actually ended up becoming friends with the tall dude. He ended up working out with us. Old ex-military dude, he had some pretty crazy military charge, weapons, stuff like that. But yeah, it was awkward because I just cussed out this group of guys, this nice group of guys. But I was being cautious. And you're not supposed to accept stuff. You're not supposed to accept stuff from anybody. When I first got there, and it took me about 3 or 4 days to go to the store, I got there August 1st, 2012. It was 103, 104 degrees my first day there. They sell 12. I didn't have a fan or nothing, so I was just sitting there roasting, no food, no nothing. I found there's a store man. A store man generally, a lot of the time, a store man's a big old dude, okay? But there's other store men that aren't like that too. There was one on my floor, old man Gobble. Gobble was a nice old man, probably about 70 years old. And I talked to a couple people who I gathered were decent people, and I'm like, so he's all right? And they're like, yeah, he's all right. And what's that old man going to go do? Well, you owe me, sonny boy. No, you know what I mean? What's he going to do? I'll fold him up in half and put him up underneath the bed. You know what I mean? Don't have to be the toughest guy in the world to beat up a 70-year-old frail man, but that was just my thought. You know what I mean? Go to a lot of these other people, they might have that type of, they might be a store man because that's what they're trying to do. And he actually turned out to be a really good dude, man. Old man Gobble. They've got a call-out sheet. A call-out sheet's a piece of paper with names telling you where you're supposed to go the next day, your appointments. And, imagine you're sleeping in your bed one night, you self-report to the prison the next day, you wake up in the prison. You don't have a clock to get you up on time. I don't have an alarm clock yet, don't have a watch. Old man Gobble come in there, hey, you got to go to this appointment at 3 o'clock. You make sure. I just wanted to let you know. I was like, man, thanks. He really helped me out a whole lot when I first got. He was like, he's like a white version of the Morgan Freeman from Shawshank Redemption. That's what I could say. Old man Gobble was like. He was a good dude, And if people didn't pay him the money they owed him, he didn't send somebody to come after him, anything. He just quit doing business with them. That's how he did it. He washed clothes and he lent out some food for a very generous payback that was not a high percentage back. It was just how he made his couple extra bucks. But he was an old man, nice old man. But, that's what I did. I went to him. I was extra cautious. I watched Turned Out Alabama and Fleece Johnson. I said, oh, Lord, no, that ain't going to happen to me. So I was extra cautious, a little over too cautious. I cussed out a Christian group. I also took Xanax that day before I went to the prison. I was about to have a heart attack. Imagine you're turning yourself in on an 8-year sentence directly at the prison, and funny stories with that too. I talked like Forrest Gump the whole day, and had to say my name in the receiver for the next 5 years because that. Seth Mumpow. I said a name that wasn't even mine. That's a funny story, and the one's back. But anyway, God forbid you end up in prison. This is some kind of stuff you need to know. Like, if you're willing to say, no, I'm not. What? No. That ain't happening. Let's try it. And you handle it. I mean, even if you're 140 pounds, 5'4", if you're willing to stand up for yourself, like there's a 99.9999% chance nothing's going to happen to you. Most of this stuff was happening to people that were just like coerced, basically talked into doing it. And that's something that you need to know if you end up there, if you're willing to take a stand, be like, no, not on this planet, not in any other dimension. And if we go to quantum physics right now and we go into infinity dimensions and not one of them is what you're talking about going to happen. We can go ahead and handle this right now. We can bust each other up if you want to. But if you're willing to let people, and it's not a tough guy thing, it's not anything like that. Okay, there are people in there. There's a guy in there who was like 60 years old. Who I saw lose, man, it was an absurd, dozens of fights. I've got a story for each person he lost to. I haven't even started on those stories on him. He lost an eye in another prison, but he was willing to fight. People didn't bother him because they knew they were going to have to fight him. And you ask, well, how did he get in dozens of fights if nobody bothered him? He started the fights. He started them. He got a piece of wood that was used to hold the bathroom window open when it's hot in the summertime. It's like an oven in there. He got that piece of wood and hit the one guy in the head with it. Guy turned around and took off and beat the piss out of him. But nobody would mess with this old because they knew they were going to have to fight him. So it's not a tough thing. It's more like just being willing to stand up for yourself and, saying, oh, you're hard or you're not hard. You got it in you or you don't. No, anybody can say, no, I'm not putting up with that. You might whoop me, but I'm definitely going to leave you with at least a black eye. Come on, you want to try to do this, or can we just go on and, just skip all the BS right now? That's what you can do, It's not a tough guy thing. It's a self-respect thing. And if you respect yourself, it doesn't have to happen. But anyway, that's another one about Raymond. There's other stories about that. Held this one off for a long time. There's a lot of stories about that. There were stories that got circulated that were from years about that I heard from other people that I can, tell another day. But interesting character, Flamin' Raymond. And I'm not talking about Flamin' Raymond, not like Flamin' Cheetos and Flamin' Ramen Noodles. Flamin' Raymond. Oh, Lord. Oh, man. I was in the Twilight Zone. You don't got to go through that. You ain't got to keep on doing dope, cutting up, getting in trouble. I mean, even though, like, with this stuff, like, just being around this stuff, do you want to be around that? Do you want to be in Lee Hall next to the bathroom where you're here all night, where you hear people all night? No. You don't want to be around that. So quit doing what you're doing. There's a million avenues, a million past things you can do to change the route you're going right now, so you don't have to deal with that. The biggest thing is it's just time you can't get back. That's the worst thing that I had about prison. That the worst stuff that I dealt with in there was stuff that just PTSD stuff. Like I'm walking the track, then all of a sudden somebody 10 foot away from me just randomly starts getting poked up by 3 people. Imagine that. You're just carrying about your day and somebody 10 foot away from you just gets jumped on, and and even though like that didn't happen to me, just being around it doesn't have to happen to you. Just being there, being witness to it, and just randomly stuff jumping off at any time, it'll make you twitchy because there's something, a loud sound happens, you'll catch yourself you know, like putting your hands up ready to, you know, smack somebody or anything else. Then you get all kinds of weird institutionalized stuff like people cutting line and stuff like that. But anyway, that's enough of this. If you liked the video, if you've watched it up until this point and you think I've earned it, press the like button. But if not, that is 34 minutes and 52 seconds of your life in which you'll never get back. For that, I'm truly sorry, but I do hope you like this video. You guys have a good one.